Hi everybody! Today I'll be continuing with my Wizzard from Christine Karron's Flower Folk book and trying to work out some foliage over here and work out an idea for my owls. So I'll catch up with you all a little bit later once I've got things sorted out, and maybe I can show you the combinations that I've used. I'm not sure if I'll get onto the background today, but we'll see how we go. Okay, as we're sticking with the Arteza Expert pencils, we have very limited range of colours. There's only 48, so this is the first green colour combination that I've come up with that I've used for this kind of fern kind of plant coming up here. I'm not sure if I'll figure out a different one for these bigger leaves. We'll have to see how we go with that, but this is what I figured out for those, for the fern. It's the moss green of 548, yellow green 549, silver grey 565, and just as a blender I'm using the white 501. And basically starting off at the base of the leaf, right where it joins the stem, I'm putting a little bit of the moss green, pressing quite hard towards where it joins the stem, and then kind of fading off a little bit towards the middle, because that's where the yellow green is going to try and blend it in. Blend into the darker colour there. And hopefully, because red and green are kind of opposite colours on the colour wheel, we should be getting a nice bit of contrast here. And I'll probably go in with my white gel pen, as I usually do. Add a couple of bits of light kind of shining off these leaves. And I might go in and add a shadow behind there on his hat, but I haven't quite decided. That might be overcomplicating it a little bit. Basically today I just wanted to try and work out a few combinations for these kind of fiddly bits along the bottom. So yeah, that was the moss green, and then I went in with the yellow green, kind of over the moss green where I went kind of lighter, and again fading out the yellow green towards the tip of the leaf. They are quite small leaves, so there's not a lot of blending or anything involved, so just the three colours. And then for the edge of the leaf I was using the silver grey just for the tip of the leaf. Again, trying to blend a little bit into that yellow green, but because as they're so small, there's not much actual blending that we have to do, because it's not going to be that noticeable anyways. And then once all that was done, I was going over the whole leaf with the white just to blend it, as I like to do, but you could use a blender pencil or just leave it if you want. It doesn't make that much of a difference. It's just a method I've kind of sort of adapted for myself. And then just for the line, the main vein down the middle of the leaf, I was just drawing that in back with the moss green. And I think that was making quite a nice leaf combination. I've also coloured the stem with the moss green towards the edges, then the yellow green, moving in towards the middle with the yellow green, and I'll use the silver grey in the middle there, which will probably be given a white highlight, knowing me. Yeah, basically that's what I've been doing with this fern here, because I'm trying to stick with these Amazon Basic pencils as much as I can. I know I did admit defeat with the gold, but yeah, I tried and tried. There was really not much I could do. Just following the exactly same method for these leaves here. Just going to add a little bit. It might be going a bit too far up the leaf really, but I want to put a little bit of green behind these mushrooms just to give them a bit of shadow. We might be getting a little bit of the yellow light reflecting onto these leaves, so maybe I'll bring in a little bit of that lemon yellow that we had that we were using. Wouldn't be coming much further up than that, I don't think. A little bit hard to see here what's going on with these leaves, so we'll just wing it. Looks like that one is kind of curling upwards, so might need to bring in a little bit more shadow under there. Not so much grey on these ones as the yellow would be showing there with the light shining. I'm not entirely sure how to make that look as if it's going as yet, so that's why I'm kind of shying away from it and just working on fixing these leaves for now. And as usual, there'll be white gel pen highlights I'll just pop those in now, I think, just so we can see where the light is shining onto those leaves. Not going too crazy though, we don't want to be drawing attention all the way over to these ferns. That's not the main point of the picture. We just want it to look as if the light is shining onto them there. There we go, that's not looking too bad, and I'll catch up with you once I've filled out the other side. Just going to try shading going here with a little bit of brown. This is a dark chocolate brown. Again, trying to keep my darks kind of fairly colourful. I don't want to bring in too much black. We needed a little bit more definition behind there. For the stems of the mushrooms, I'm going to try shading with the sand. That's 592. Toadstools, mushrooms, I'm not entirely sure what they are, but I'm going to shade it with sand anyways. And try and put some shadows in with the warm grey, which is 566. That needs to stand out a tiny little bit more, so I'm going to add a very, very little bit of black. And the customary white highlight. Okay, for these little mushrooms, thankfully there's two of them, so I can practice on one and show you how I did it on the other one. I started off by shading it with burnt ochre, which is 553. I also used the sand, which is 502, and the light ochre, 554. And for the last bit of the darkest shading, I used brick red, 560. So I'll start with the burnt ochre. There is a little bit of shading already on these little toadstool mushrooms. So I'll just try and follow that kind of grayscale shading. This is just kind of the mid-tone sort of layer with the burnt ochre. Then I was going over with the light ochre. And extending out a little bit from where we stopped with our burnt ochre shading. And for the very centre, I was using the sand. This one will be a little bit lighter because it's closer to where that staff is going to be shining out. So going to make sure we put our highlights on that edge. And here we are with the brick red. Which is, it's a slightly different shade of red than I actually used for his robe. It's technically a brown, I think. It was grouped with the browns, but it's a different shade than his robe, so it does look as if it's standing out, which is great. That's what we need. We need them to be slightly lighter because they are further towards us. Let's add a little tiny bit down here as well. It is still 3D even though the light is shining on it, so. Alright, this shadow is furthest away from the lights. I'm going to fill in that edge with the sand because that highlight won't be as bright as the one that's closest to the light, so I'm just going to try and fill it in slightly. And add our highlight. And these little white spots. They're already drawn in, so I'm just filling those in with the white, making sure they're standing out. And we might need a little bit of a highlight along this edge as well because we're going to be filling in the underside, the little gills there, quite dark in how I did that. First of all, going in with a slightly dark colour. This is a Van Dyck brown, marking in the little kind of gills of the mushroom, the lines that come from the centre towards the outside, just marking those in. A bit of black, just very, very slightly underneath here. And now warm grey. more of a highlight along the edge on that side than on this side, because again that one is closer to the light from the staff. Taking in the white to kind of blend it out a little bit. White highlights just to show those gills a little bit more. And that's before with the this kind of bit of the stem. I don't know if it's got a specific name, this sort of frilly bit underneath the mushroom. I'm filling it in with sand, putting some shadows with the warm grey. Shading a little bit with the warm grey. And then for the darkest areas, a little bit of the Van Dyck brown. That's not looking too bad at all. I quite like that, so let's move on. Okay, for these leaves I'm going to try going full on silver grey. There is not many different shades of green, so I'm trying to make a green combination using the emerald green and this silver grey with a little tiny bit of ochre. We're going to see how it goes. So there we go, that's the silver grey, 565. Try and use a little bit of the light ochre, that's 554. Again, using more unusual colours. You gotta try it out to know whether it works over here. And then I'm gonna go in with the emerald, which is 545. Let's see what we can make of this. Not entirely convinced. Let's try the brown ochre. This one is looking more like more of an autumn sort of leaf. Blend it with the white, see if that will help us out. It's more sort of yellow kind of ochre than green, but I think we can live with that. Again, this part of the leaf would be lighter because that's closer to the actual staff that's going to be glowing, hopefully, so make this edge lighter, kind of light ochre, and then bring in our highlights along this edge here. Try a bit more of brown ochre, just to darken that furthest away half of the leaf. Yeah, that's not too bad actually. There's a hint of green to it. Now I have to remember how I did it. Did I start with the with the silver grey? I think I might have done. Started with the silver grey. Emerald green. The veins in the leaf. A little bit of the light ochre. And the brown ochre. There's some experimental little leaves down here. Just playing about. Okay, blend it with the white. Bit of the emerald there. Maybe the brown ochre, just to make sure this half of the leaf looks more kind of shady. And the edge with the light ochre. So that this edge can be where our highlights are. I'll just fill in this kind of vine down here using the same kind of colours. Let's see what we can do with the white gel pen. I think I need to bring in the black here for a little bit of shading on the leaf. Again, I don't want to use super tons of it. Considering the limited amount of colours we've got, that's not too bad. The mushroom should be taking most of the attention down that side anyways, and this little clutch of plants, that's more of an afterthought, so we'll leave it as is. Let's try and start working on this staff. Before I start that, I'll add some of the lemon yellow. For the glow. As it comes down towards this scroll, I'll start with the warm grey. I don't colour trees that often. I don't really like colouring trees or wood, but when I do, I try and start with the warm grey instead of a brown, because I think it makes it look more of a muted colour, because I think that works better for trees. The darkest is the Van Dyck brown, so try and add in a little bit down here. There's no sort of tan colour to come in with the sand. Kind of a cream. Let's see what that does, going over our Van Dyck brown. And the warm grey. It's not really looking like wood though, is it? Let me see. That's more of a light wood colour, burnt ochre. Being a bit kind of scribbly because the bark is obviously rough and it's got a bit of texture to it, so it's not going to be perfectly smooth. Okay, back to Van Dyck brown. I think we need to darken up the edges. Trying to leave a little bit of a highlight for reflected light down the side. Staying mainly to the edges because the glow will be coming here. Okay, let's try and make this look as if it's glowing. I've picked up lemon yellow, yellow, chrome yellow and orange. I have no idea. Maybe if we kind of blend it in from the outer edges. Trying to leave the middle more of a white. Just using the colours in kind of order of the dark, how dark they are. Yeah, we've got glue there, I think, but it might need a bit more of a. This is the chrome yellow. I'm just adding a few little kind of touches of it along those edges of his staff to hopefully make it look like it's glowing. I'm bringing that warm grey to just dot down the edges of his staff. Add in more of a glow, just with the yellow. It should have that light shining onto his robe. It's easy, is it? Once you've got the actual glow kind of penned in, so to speak, coloured in, it's a bit more easier to kind of figure out where your glow would be. I think it's working quite well though, considering this is just from remembering what the reference photo looked like. It's not too bad. I don't think it does kind of look a fiery glow, which is what we wanted. Let's add some more of the yellow to his cheeks, just to have that going there. I'm kind of happy with that, I think. Still haven't totally decided on this owl. I really wanted to have the green eyes that are like completely covered green. Okay, I think I'm going to have to be brave here. I don't think I've got any gouache paint around that will work for doing her eyes at the moment. So what I'm going to do is just fill them all in with the darkest green marker and then work on top with lighter greens to hopefully make that look as if her eyes are completely solid green. I don't know if it will work. Complete experiment, but we're going with it. As I said before, this is to represent the goddess of luck, who kind of has taken a special interest in our Rincewind, so I'm going to try and represent her with this owl. She has got like completely green eyes, no pupils, just completely green eyes, so that's what I'm going to try and portray there. I've just filled in the whole of her eye there with the hoo-hoo marker BG2, that's deep green. And once that's dry, I'm going to try colouring on top. Let's see, and black for the very edges. I should, in theory, be able to go on top of it with the lighter greens, and those should show up quite nicely with, in theory, moss green. What's a nice light green? The yellow green, I suppose. Let's see. A white. White would line it up a little bit here. Seems to be. Not quite completely covered, but I think we can work with that. That's not looking too bad. That's covered up the pupil, that's what we wanted. She doesn't have any pupils. Oh, shading around the edges of black, just a shade around the edges. Oh, I'm not sure whether I should give it some wire highlights, but let's see. Let's try and do the same as Rince's got in his eyes. And I wasn't entirely sure whether to make my owl grey or brown or white, so I'll start by edging her feathers with green. I'm going with the fact that she's a magic owl, kind of an avatar of this goddess whose name I really should look up. In fact, yes, I will look it up. Okay, I've looked her up, and apparently she's just called the Lady. She's just called the Lady Luck, I guess. So we're going to give our lady here some green edges to her feathers, I think. Maybe bring in the lemon yellow for the glow of the staff. I've missed out her bell there. Okay, it's the yellow green I'm using, grass green. I've got the lemon yellow just for the glow and a bit of the moss green. But as it is, I'm winging it because I still haven't really decided what colour, if any, I'm going to do for this owl. Guess we're going to go for brown with a little bit of a greenish tinge. Seems to be what I've picked out. Even dark chocolate for the deep shadows. Let's see how that will work. I want to bring in that little touch of green. Or to make the best of both worlds, we could make her belly sort of a palish, maybe more of a white colour. The head and wings more of the dark brownish colour. That might work. Still need to bring in that red of the ribbon as well. I haven't shaded her ribbon. I kept my shading just to his robes. Fade the green a little bit. Just these kind of edges of her feathers, making the speckles more green. Trying to make the tips of her feathers. Just the tips of the feathers, making it green. And these darker parts. Let's see if we can make that work. Looks kind of mossy. Sort of a very woodlandsy spirit. But the colour of the lady look is green, so we'll roll with it and see what we end up with. I think she's looking pretty cute so far. Let's take the brown and go into these feathers. Still leave the green showing. Slightly better. I'm just putting little kind of dots or kind of dashes there to try and indicate some sort of feathers. And that side of our little owl would be getting the light reflected onto her, so we do want that to be kind of lighter. I'm going to bring in the black here and see what we can do with the furthest away bits of the owl. Let's see with the white thing. Quite like that, she looks puffy. Okay, here's the dark green. What can that do? Let's emphasize these feathers. Putting the green on the tips of the feathers. I still want to make her tummy look like it's kind of three-dimensional, so kind of give a bit of form to these feathers. I want it to look light, so we'll bring in a bit of the white gel pen. Give a bit of form to it, but still keeping her tummy light and her body dark, which is the plan. So let's bring the darker green, the moss green, and the edges of these feathers. As I said, I'm just going with what feels right at the time, so that's kind of how I normally work anyway. Figure out a colour for a beak, but you want to bring this darker colour. I'm trying to work in either strokes like this or single strokes, because that should help indicate the feathers if you've got the marks laying all in the right direction. And the feather marks are kind of drawn in some places, so it's kind of easy to figure out. Let's bring in a little bit of the black just to emphasize these two layers of feathers here. I quite like that. Let's work into that with the brown ochre. These are the colours I'm using in case I've forgotten to mention those. There's moss green, black, yellow green, oops, also grass green, which is the other side of my paper there, brown ochre, dark chocolate, burnt ochre, and the yellow was just for showing where the light was reflecting from the staff. I think we need a few little more. She's kind of a scruffy little owl, but I like her. I think she's cute. Let's bring her white in her tummy round there. see, I think we do need some of the darker brown, but not going overboard because her tummy is kind of light. That's a little bit cross now. Probably the thing owls do. Owls tend to look a little bit cross. I think they've got those big eyebrows going on. To give her a ribbon. Just shading with the same pencils that I used for his robes. That's geranium red, red, and red brown. Popping a few feathers, kind of poking over the edge of the ribbon. Kind of helps with the effect that she's a fluffy owl. She does seem to be. I use the lighter browns for her talons, brown ochre. Might have to shade a beak with that as well. Bring in the dark chocolate. By now I will have skipped a lot of the colouring process, but most of it is on camera. Put a little bit of yellow onto her feet for when the staff should be shining. I think I'm fairly happy with that so far. Now this kind of ribbon at the bottom seems to be coming from the staff. So I'm guessing it'll be kind of magical. We'll just start shading it with a lemon yellow. So I might have it turn into more of a kind of parchment colour. So I'll blend that yellow into the sand. So that was lemon yellow. That was lemon yellow 503. Going to blend it into the sand. Sand 502 to make it look a kind of a parchment yellow colour. And then hopefully pick out our lettering in gold. Shade this maybe with a little bit of burnt sienna. Give a bit of that old parchment look. Have a bit of red bleeding through there. We'll just work that in. No big problem. I think, yeah, along the edges, we'll bring in the burnt sienna. And maybe the Van Dyke brown. Picking out a few little bits of these edges. Give it that old kind of scroll sort of effect, parchment. Plus to cover up a few areas where our red has gone over the edge. It's all good, we can work with it. while we're thinking about it, let's blend this kind of ribbon a bit more into that glowing stuff. Is it being conjured maybe? With the chrome yellow and then a tiny little bit of the orange to add to the effect. Could give it a few sparkles. There we go, it's a magical conjured scroll. Yellow where the light might be shining on it. Alright, I've finished off this kind of parchment scroll thing down here now, and I've picked out the lettering into gel pens, and that was mainly because initially I found this red gel pen which didn't have a lot of ink left in it and was only sort of working, so I ended up just doing the tops of the letters with the red and then filling in the bottoms of the letters with the gold gel pen because the red wasn't really working very well. It might be because it's on top of a few layers of kind of waxy pencils, but shiny pencils at least, so yeah, that seems to work quite well with the two-tone letters there, so I'm quite pleased with how that's turned out. And so I don't put my fingers in that, I'll just finish off the bell for the owl, the same colours that I used for the gold on Rincewinc's robes, and then I'll swing us around so that I don't put my hands in the gel pen while it's drying. We've just got these two feathers in his hat, which I'll probably do the same kind of colours as the owl, brown and green, and then all that will be left is the galaxy background. Okay, I've finished up those feathers on his hat there, just trying to use the same kind of colours that I've used in the owl, the brown with like the green on the tip. Just shading out from the middle kind of vein of the feather with strokes to try and make it look more kind of feathery and softer. And it's time to try and fill in the background now, so it's where we find out whether this paper will take watercolours. It should do, because the Blue Angel paper, which this is pretty good at taking water when I use super tips as watercolour, so hopefully it should take this as watercolour. And the colours that I've picked out to use for the sky, I'm going to try and make some sort of night sky going on in the background: ivory black, Prussian blue and cerulean blue. I'm not going to go too crazy with the kind of galaxy colours, I just want it to look like a bit of a night sky, and basically test if the paper will take the watercolour. I'm going to start with the black, and I'm just going to go over this corner for a start to hide those bits where the marker I went too far up. It's not looking too bad. This bit down here probably will be mostly the black. We're quite far away from the light, and we're actually behind the wizard himself, so we can basically fill in this whole part the black, I would imagine. It shouldn't look too bad. I can always blob some blue onto it later if I decide that it is a bit too stark. But yeah, this is another reason why I didn't want to use too much black in the actual shading for the picture, because we're bringing black in from the outside and we do want the picture to look separate from the background. So maybe we'll go from dark up to light, maybe. We'll see how that will work. So we'll bring the black in these brushes. I still haven't replaced them, so yeah, it's not the best watercolor brush, please don't judge me. We'll bring the black in there. Maybe try introducing the Prussian blue a little bit. Where are we? Go with Prussian blue. I'm just going to try and blend that in, try and get a few watercolor effects going on where it blends into that black. A few kind of bloom effects maybe. Probably haven't taken too long that my paint starts dry. I need it to be kind of wet to have the colours bleeding into each other. Blob some black on that side. A few nice blending effects going on. Carry on up here with the blue. Pencils do seem to be resisting it slightly, which is a good thing, because if I go over the lines it shouldn't be too hard to clean up. It might mean that the pencils are actually wax. I wasn't exactly sure if they were or not. Just adding some clean water there to bring that blue up a bit, and maybe introduce the cerulean more at the top. But I do want it to kind of all mix together, you know how I like my paint effects. This is the cerulean blue. Putting that down there. I don't want a harsh kind of line where the colours meet. Yeah, there we go, that's helped. Just dropping a blob of clean water on there. You can also just, oops. We took off a bit too much. Never mind. Let's don't really want any harsh lines. I want it all to be kind of blended out. Maybe fading towards the top, so put a touch of blue in here. In. Come in with some clean water. It's not looking too bad. It is definitely making the wizard with his red robe stand out from the background, so So now it's down to me playing with the watercolour, which is something that I love to do. Get my nice little bloom blobby effects. Try. And the paper, yeah, is taking it really well. But Blue Angel paper is, yeah, it's pretty good paper. Oh, I like that. That's a nice little effect going on there. Can we do that again? Yeah. Yeah, now that's what I'm talking about. Maybe a straight black right down here. Not sure I like the straight black over the other side, so we might try and take in some of the, without putting my hand in it. Get some of the Prussian blue there. See if we can make that work. Yeah, that's better. Bit of something going on. And I'll do the same this side. I'll just blob in the Prussian blue here. Try and leave those threadbare hat kind of effect going on there. And tap it with my kitchen towel. Yeah. Just bring a little bit of the black. Blend it into the Prussian blue. No harsh lines. Just want to let the paint mix itself together. Don't force it too much. Try and help it along. If it looks like it's struggling to be making any nice effects, you can, yeah, obviously help it along. Dropping just clean water in, like those, which makes some nice effects. You can wet the edges to make sure they're damp enough for the cerulean blue to blend in. Which is what we're going to pop in now. Yeah, the whole idea, this kind of background is just be really kind of loose with it. Don't worry or be scared or expect anything really. You just gotta blob it on, let it do its own thing. Help it along in the places if you don't like how it's going. But yeah, that, oh, I really like that. Those kind of blobby effects. But you can help it along if it's looking a bit boring. You can blob some clean water on. Help it make some nice effects. So in that gap for his hat there, we'd probably have a bit of the Prussian blue. Get the cerulean blue and let those kind of meld together. So as you see, the areas where we did go a bit too enthusiastic with our marker there, that's all been covered now. So you'd never tell. I'm thinking about going around the edges of the border there that I've got with the gold Sharpie maybe, or a gold gel pen, just to tidy up any little splodges that might be happening there. Just adding a little bit of Prussian blue. those nice bloom effects. Oh yeah, there we go. Because not everybody likes that. Some people like their watercolour to be kind of clean and yeah, nice washes. But I like it when it does its own thing and gives me those kind of washy effects. Don't put a bit too much there. Okay, I think I'm kind of happy with that. That seems to be working the way I want it to, so we're going to let that dry and then work on adding some stars. So I'll catch up with you in a while and we'll add some stars once our paint is dry. Okay, my paint is pretty much dry now, so I'll show you how I would go about making some stars. I've taken a little bit of my white ink, this Winsor & Newton white ink, and I've just put it on my palette. I'm going to water that down a little bit, and we're going to try and make some stars by just spattering with the brush, as we usually do with when I do my grungy backgrounds and I spatter on like that. But this time we're going to be using the white, and I've discovered the water is resisting when it goes on top of the pencil, so hopefully if I do get any onto the pencil, I should be able to just kind of mop that up and not have it cause too big of a problem. We'll see how it goes. So we'll do some little stars by just spattering with the brush like that. Let's see if we can wipe off the... Yep, that's wiping off quite well. We'll just have some little stars going that side, a few more the other side. Now doing it this way, it makes them pretty random. It's a bit hard to kind of predict where they will turn out. I'll wipe off the ink on his hat there. So that's one way for doing the little stars. You could also just take the ink on the brush and dab them on. See if you have any areas where there isn't any. Just dab them on. It's quite hard to get them to look around though, is there any trouble? Let's try one there. A few kind of peeping through where these leaves are. And the other option, of course, is white gel pen, which is a lot easier to make the stars look round. And to make the star look as if it's shining, what I sometimes do is do the dot with the white gel pen like that, and then take a damp brush before it has time to dry completely, and spread that ink around to give a kind of halo, light halo around the star. And that will make it look like it's shining. And when that's dry, you can go back in and put a white dot right in the middle. So if I do a few of those dotted about, that kind of makes the stars, that kind of makes it look as if there's a bit of a difference. A few different stars are brighter than the others, which works for me. Not really showing up so much on the cerulean blue, but like the middle of that one. Okay, now you can see once you've put the white dot in the middle of that kind of light halo, that looks as if that star is really shining bright. Let's try one. Okay, just to tidy up the edges, I might take the gold Sharpie and just finish off the edges of this border here to tidy up the watercolour. Okay, all done. He's turned out a lot better than I thought he would. He looks pretty good, I think. I'm really happy with how he's turned out. Kind of glad that the way I did the owls worked out really well. I'm really happy with this glow effect we've got going on with that staff. That really looks as if it's glowing, I think. So yeah, I'm super happy with him. So there's only one thing left to do, and that's sign and date him. And there's Rinse, Rinse Our Wizards. Thank you for following along with me, everybody. Hopefully I've inspired maybe somebody to actually colour in this book if you've gotten it, because it is a gorgeous book. And yeah, don't be scared of colouring in it. It's super fun. Just give it a go. Jump in, pick a picture, jump in. It does help to, yeah, once you've coloured one, you're not half so worried about colouring the rest of them like I was. I was really precious with it at first, but this one, I'm like, yeah, blob some watercolour. We'll see how it goes. And yeah, it's just enjoy it. It is a gorgeous book, so yeah, it's worth enjoying is my point that I'm trying to get along to. So yeah, thank you for watching, everybody, and I hope you've enjoyed it. Take care, and I'll see you in future videos. Bye.